So hello, good morning, evening and afternoon all over the world. Thank you for attending our Unlock the Power of Prolaborate focused on finance sector session. As to give a short introduction, we will talk about us, meaning Nizam and me, only just an introduction because if you don't know us, then I will address some hot topics in finance sector from our customers that were touching us and connecting us and asking for. And then we will do some discussions about possible solutions based on enterprise architect platform and Prolaborate, of course, and Nizam then will give his live session. This is a very Austrian thing because there is a song. A short introduction about us. My name is Lieber. I'm the CEO of Sparx Systems in Europe, and my colleague is Nizam, who is from Sparx Systems India, but also in Australia, very active as a business developer for the new domain solutions. You have heard about Radio maybe recently, and I think there is a long story about him he will talk about later as well. From the banking sector, so jump directly into the topics. It's not only banking, but we're also addressing finance, banking, and insurance. So we name it FBI. So I think there are some upcoming topics that are very important related to enterprise architecture management. One of the things that always have been, I just put them there. There is still a motivation in digital transformation, innovation. We have some scalability, future-proofing of IT systems, especially in banking and insurance industry, because they were very early adopters of IT systems, and now they have a lot of things that are still in progress. And I have heard about 80 to 90% investments only to keep old systems up and running instead of migrating or having the budget to migrate to newer systems. And it's always a balance of risk and analysis, and it's typically a 20 to 30 years running project to migrate from a host system to a more modern world, and you don't know what happens in the next 20 to 30 years. But enterprise architecture definitely can help there, and we have seen already some merger acquisition activities as well, especially lately in Switzerland, as you have heard about big bank mergers there, and enterprise architecture definitely helps. But new upcoming things, or more or less new upcoming things, it's not that new, but it will be active by, I think, 26th of January 2025. Is a new regulatory compliance, this Digital Operational Resilience Act, DORA. So every bank in this case, but I think it will be also used for other financial institutes to have a more resilience activity, especially in Europe, but it's a global initiative, is a very important topic that we want to address, our customers want to address. Then there is a thing, the Banking Industry Architecture Network. I've heard not every bank is implementing it, but it's a standard, and I think it's worth to have an eye on it and what we have done to provide an easier access to this infrastructure, banking industry architecture network. And then a new thing, more or less new, it's part of Enterprise Architect 17 and has been part of all the accelerators from Prolaborate in the past. And nowadays is a thing that is the essential architecture, shortcut T. And this is a great change. I come to this topic later from our mindset, how we want to support you by adapting your architecture in your organizations. And the other topics that are side stories of today only are still risk management, operational efficiency. That is a thing that you generally want to access or reach with enterprise architecture. Transformation, innovation, scalability, of course, security and data privacy. This is still a topic that you want to address and you want to classify, of course, in your organization. And Sparx, including our Sparx Services division, definitely can help you to onboard with our tools your strategies and visions that you want to achieve with a modeling approach. Just a few words about the DORA, the Digital Operational Resilience Act. It wants to ensure that financial institutions, especially the EU, have the ability to withstand and recover from IC-related disruptions. So there are more strategies behind, but this is more the organizational. It's a lot of regulations, let me name it like that, but also and a lot of paperwork from our perspective, because we have also to apply to DORA. but of course it is maybe a little bit an extension of the ISO 27001 and 2 about information security, but they have also a good plan to find out how banks can trust each other, and not only for financial transactions, but also suppliers of banks can trust each other. Of course, because it's European Union, in the beginning it sounds like an overhead, much more work, and so on and so forth. But the ideas behind are good. At the moment, there is a lot of consulting business going on there to ensure from an organizational point of view, but from, I think it must be related as well to make it happen in an IT-related way, and therefore enterprise architecture management, and especially our role, is that we can do with Enterprise Architect 3 Rado. So we have the product name will be Enterprise Architect 3 Rado, to help financial institutions to model, analyze, and manage the IT landscape, that they are robust, resilient, and compliant with DORA. So you can, of course, create additional stereotypes, tag values, extend your meta model, and of course define at least some tag values to make an analysis, get the red flags and the green flags for your own infrastructure, and of course you are afterwards better prepared for any kind of audit. But again, maybe a very important story behind. I think that regulation is a strong driver for enterprise architecture management, and you don't want to wait for a tool vendor to implement all of these acts, especially if they are domain specific. And therefore, an open platform as we provide is a very good option for you to be flexible enough and fast enough to fulfill any duties from the outside regulatory duties. The banking industry architecture network originally was done by one of our competitors, but nevertheless, it's an open standard, and therefore we also have the implementation of it, because if you have an open standard, you have also interoperability, and we are strong believers in open standards and try to implement all the open standards that are relevant in the market. So currently, I think in the version 17, we have more than 80 standards. I have in my team people that only, so typically if you're an enterprise architecture domain, you don't need 80 standards. So you have to focus on the industry standards, of course. But typically you are dealing with Archimate, maybe TOGAF, maybe Zacman, but maybe also you use as a base the banking industry architecture network. And they tried to do a similar thing that the telecom industry was doing before, to have a common standard for an entire industry. So I think it makes sense not only to think about data architecture in your organization or business architecture, but also think about how to build a standard that is comparable and interoperable with other with your competitors at the end, bank competitors. But you have a clear strategy, a clear focus. It's a collaborative platform. And I think it makes a lot of sense, because if you're using standardized APIs and service domains, it's much easier to interoperate with two other tools that are related to this and implementing the BIAN standard as well. So standards, and in this case, we are for the financial sector, the BIAN standard is very notable. And last but not least, the things that I want to point out, and then we come to this more life aspect, is that we and especially Nizam's teams implemented the last 2 years already. In the beginning was something like accelerators, and we thought, oh my God, what is an accelerator? And this accelerator idea comes out because of the first 100 and whatever implementations of Prolaborate. It turned out that there is a kind of majority doing always the same thing, having the same questions, but they had to start always from the scratch, from the very beginning. And we wanted to help you to become much faster. And this approach is now broadened, because we have not only application portfolio management, we have business capability measurements, we have innovation management, we have sustainable enterprise architecture. So a lot of accelerators, and they have a common thing. They are based on the essential architecture. What is it? It is a very pragmatic approach to enterprise architectures, focusing on key components for a specific result. So it's very result oriented, meaning you get a dashboard for non-modelers. So people that are not aware of modeling have a very easy entry to models or the information that is there. And it helps that you, instead of investing 3 months to implement your own application portfolio management and reinvent the wheels, we try to provide them for free, and you can also participate as like an open source idea to participate on the meta model. You get with Enterprise Architect 17 the possibility to extend the meta model. You have all the insights, how we have done it, so you can easily adapt it. It's like the Hello World has been in the past. Every software starts with Hello World. We have now every modeling approach in enterprise architecture starts with the essential architecture. That's our vision, to make your life easier, and we will see some results out of it. And it's very effective, because instead of arguing to your CEO what he could become when you have done your modeling work, you have already a result that you can present and say, okay, now we have a possible result. Now we have to feed the backyard, and then we will be much faster in getting also viewers or stakeholders onboarded and motivated to keep on track. Yeah, very often in the modeling world, we are focusing on modeling, on meta modeling, and so on and so forth. And with the essential architecture, we shortcut the motivation for the people holding the money in the organization very often. And therefore, we believe that's a very cost-effective approach to enterprise architecture. We have some additional solutions already with for software engineering as well, C4 as an example. And also what we also achieve with that is very often we have seen that there is a trend to over-engineer a little the meta modeling. So as soon as you are in the meta modeling environment, there is a trend that people tend to over-engineer, because that must be in and that must be in. And I think we found a nice approach and a very competitive approach to make it right-sized, not low-sized, it's right-sized. It's a good mixture of our experiences as a turnkey solution for the start, and you can adapt it because Enterprise Architect allows it. Last but not least, I want to point out that, of course, other hot topics, especially in the finance, banking industry, insurance industry, where risk management, operational efficiency, that's just a repetition of the first, but this is still a topic. But I wanted to point the hottest topics of today. And now I want to hand over to my colleague, Nizam.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. There's an echo. So I'll continue by going through the Prolaborate side of it in a little more detail. So I'll be elaborating on the pointers that Peter said as a heads up. So this will be the section that I'll be delving into in a little more detail today. So firstly, like for people who know Prolaborate, this could be something that is repeating itself, but for the larger audience, Prolaborate is the web publishing and collaboration platform for Enterprise Architect, and it's been designed for extending the modeled architecture to the larger stakeholders to enable collaboration by providing the right insights and getting their feedback. So the whole idea is to simplify model and present it in a curated manner, just the selected parts of the architecture, not showing the overwhelming bigger picture to everyone, but rather if they are interested in business strategy or vision or capabilities, we could actually have curated views to those stakeholders to enable, to provide them the right insights and also get the right feedback from them as well. So these are the core tenets on which like Prolaborate has been developed. Like, to start with, there are four key use cases for architecture users that Prolaborate enables. The first one being better focus. So one of the things with an enterprise architecture repository is a tool where we try to do the entire enterprise architecture, ranging all the way from strategy to business architecture to application architecture to data architecture to technology architecture. Is there's a whole lot of contents that is consumable by the architects, but when we are targeting specific stakeholders for whom this has been built, we firmly believe enterprise architecture is built to enable decisions, to enable insights to the right stakeholders. So when we try to address this to the right stakeholders for whom it was built, we usually see content overload in the conventional way. When we present it as a document or things like that, it's also not getting the right real-time insights that we want to do. So what Collaborate on an outset starts to do is to write, they just choose the right parts of your architecture repository and present it to the right team. So this could be one central repository, which is the theme, like where everything is reused. It's kind of developed in different states. There could be various transition states of an architecture, all in the same repository. But we could pick and choose the parts of the set, like your architecture, that has to be published to the stakeholders. So that's one primary use case that we started building on, and that has also been made really easy because for the architects who are working on developing this stuff, they could just drag and drop parts of the model and then just assign specific roles and access controls to those roles so that they only get to see what you want them to see. So you could have a very granular access control. You could pick a portion or a sub portion or even a specific artifact and present it to the users. So that's one primary use case. Well, then the second problem when we look at a consolidated centralized repository is the amount of information that we capture could also be quite a lot. If we are talking about capabilities or applications or technology components, there's going to be a whole raft of attributes, also called as tagged values, that we usually capture. And there's also going to be a lot of interrelationships and things like that. That is essential for a central architecture repository. However, when we want to present it to the users, it's going to be quite overwhelming again because our target audience are not the technical people, rather the business stakeholders who want insights. So what Prolaborate does is it allows you to pick and choose again a form or an interface for the specific stakeholders that we are targeting, and we will only show them the right set of information with the right level of details, um, so that they can exactly get what is of interest for them. So that's the second primary use case. And the third use case is when we look at enterprise architecture repository, again building on the same story, it's going to be complex. It has to be multi-layered, interconnected with a lot of attributes, and that's when it's going to be complete. I mean, it's going to be complex in its very nature, but how do we really make that kind of complexity um, readable and understandable by stakeholders is another challenge. And that's where simplified dashboards and reports like this, where the users could just click and just understand what their perspective is. From their perspective, they could just take a slice of the model and understand whatever is relevant to them. So that kind of real-time dashboards based on architecture repository, again, there are tools which does these kind of reports in a really beautiful manner, but that wouldn't have the power of the visualization and architecture viewpoints that EA brings to the table. However, there is another set of tools. Maybe you could use Visio to just draw these things out where you would not have such insights. What the Sparx architecture platform, which is a combination of Enterprise Architect and Prolaborate, does is it has the comprehensive, multifaceted modeling capability. At the same time, it has some real-time intuitive reports. So it's one platform where both are being done and presented. So that's where the whole platform becomes quite powerful. And again, this could be for various intensive purposes. It could be for business architecture, it could be for application architecture. Every specific stream could have their own dashboards and powerful reporting capabilities. I'll be taking through an actual demo of this in a moment, but I just want to set a context on what we are talking about when we say Prolaborate. So there could be different types of visualizations. Again, in an architecture repository, it's very common to have a set of capabilities modeled. And when we talk about a set of capabilities, it's going to be hierarchical. It's going to have specific information, like it could be priority, it could be the maturity level, it could be capability type. There could be various things. We need to find an interesting way to present them all in a way like a dashboard like this, so that users could zoom in or zoom out and just see what is relevant to them. So these are the kind of visualizations or curation that Prolaborate brings to the table. And the last thing, which is also quite important, is the way we can engage users, because you could do all the best effort to build these models. However, it kind of gets to the main picture and be maintained only if there is an active feedback coming from the stakeholders. And conventional ways of doing it has always been like we publish it as a document, and then we submit it for reviews, and then they give us feedback in emails and Excel spreadsheets, and that kind of goes in loop. However, what Prolaborate does is it takes real actual live model content, add a really contemporary collaboration tool on top of it, which is on a web browser with email notifications, in-app notifications, reminders, dashboards. Pretty much everything that you would expect from a state-of-art collaboration tool has been added on top of your modeling repository, and that kind of makes it incredibly easy to conduct proper model reviews. Like I said, conventional way of publishing, emailing them, getting responses, and working through it is kind of be cumbersome and time consuming as well. However, with the actual reviews, every single reviewer would get a reminder with a link to directly go to the review, look at the artifact that he or she is expected to give feedback on, with a real-time dashboard to show what others are discussing and what kind of feedback we're getting from others, what kind of items are still outstanding. So it's something that kind of brings people to the same um, same world. Like there's the architects in one end, then all the collaborators in another end, everyone looking at the same information at the same time, and avoiding duplication, and also acting on time. So that kind of agile model reviews is something that Prolaborate brings to the table. So in summary, there are these four use cases that Prolaborate adds, which are quite critical, quite important for the success of an architecture platform. Now, I'm just going to take this whole thing and apply on the BIAN, or the the banking industry architecture network that Peter kind of gave a heads up. What we have done is we have gone through all the BIAN service landscape, recommendation, the version 12.0 now, and we have tried to build that model in Enterprise Architect and also publish it in Prolaborate. So we've got the service domains, the capabilities, the scenarios, the business wireframes, and data types. The idea behind this is if a bank is intending to get started with the BIAN framework, they would have something out of the shelf to get started. And then they could obviously extend it and make it their own example. And just by clicking on this, I'm just going to go from my presentation to the actual Prolaborate instance in my system. So if you look at the Prolaborate, the advantage of Prolaborate again is you could just share it as a URL. So I just clicked on a URL, and that kind of took me to the dashboard directly. And this dashboard is built for the BIAN architecture. So again, this is tied to an EA repository behind. But what this does is it kind of shows what's exactly needed, or what's exactly intended to be presented to this audience. So I'm just going to click on this to start with, this is like an overview or EA meta model diagram, which kind of shows, like for people who are familiar with BIAN, this is just the BIAN's meta model, which has a very similar outlook. Like it's got the strategy, it's got the business application information technology, pretty much the same one, but very much curated for the banking industry. So we have started from this, and we've been building example on each of these viewpoints. So we've got, for example, this is the business capability landscape as per BIAN standards. We've got the L1, L2, L3, and as I said, the ability to kind of zoom in or zoom out to a specific view, and then also take a closer look at what we have in each of these hierarchies. So if you look at L1 capability, then we have the L2 capability and the L3 capabilities. That the ability for users to just look at it, and this is a dynamically generated view, so I could just zoom in or zoom out to a specific portion which is of interest to me, and then just explore. And then we have also done similar worked out examples for the service domain landscape. So again, I know this is very specific to the to people who are familiar with BIAN, but I just want to demonstrate that EA and combination of Prolaborate will let you do the entire delivery, the service delivery recommendation from BIAN, and then this can be easily communicated to the larger audience as well. So this is each of these capabilities are grouped as per the service domain landscape recommendation, and each of them are clickable. We could actually click, look at its attributes, even add some description or comments to it, and that's where the whole EA plus Prolaborate equation becomes quite a strong value proposition. And then if someone is interested in diving into more details on how we have done these wireframes and how we have done these scenarios, all these are the BIAN recommended viewpoints. We have got a fairly worked out examples that is recommended in the BIAN website. As part of their recommended deliverables, we have got them covered here. So that's to give a quick gist of what we can do using Sparx EA plus Prolaborate to implement the BIAN service landscape. And we have got pretty much everything in all these layers captured. Now, moving to the next thing, which is where the TEA that Peter recommended, I wanted to just take one step backwards to let you know what was the rationale behind us coming up with something like that. The rationale was every time we try to assist a company or a team who is starting with EA, we see a pattern. So they either try to go, it's not just Sparx EA, any tool for that matter, just getting it off the shelf and trying to do something could get us some results, but not the best ideal results. With Sparx EA particularly, we have found out that a systematic approach of understanding your use cases and configuring the tool based on your use cases. Like when I say defining a meta model, I'm talking about a subset of whatever your preferred meta model is. It could be Archimate, it could be TOGAF, it could be BIAN, it could be Zachman, it could be anything. But what we need to do is we need to take a subset of that framework as per the intended use cases, initial use cases, and then EA is quite flexible and configurable. In a very short span of time, we could configure it and then start building a model and then work on the publishing options, and the training the team usually happens after this. This is a process or a simple workflow that we have found to be working on a reliable manner. And as we've been doing this repeatedly for our users, we thought, why don't we just package it as an accelerator? This will save our users a few weeks, 2 months, because we don't want, a lot of what we've been doing for our users, assisting our users, is quite overlapping. So what we did was we kind of did the same step for different architecture use cases. So the essential architecture is an overarching bundle that caters to the business capability management use case, the application portfolio management use case, the technology portfolio management use case, the business process management. So most of the common architecture use cases is what we have identified. And for each of these use cases, we did exactly the same, but using industry standard use cases, like, industry standard pain points, industry standard queries. Our idea is to help Sparx EA users to get started and achieve their intended results in a very short span of time. This may not be 100% of what you want. It's not possible to get 100% of what a particular team needs. However, this will get us to 70 to 80% in a really remarkably short span of time. And from there, once you see results, once you see the value in such an exercise, that's when you can start expanding it and extending it. The whole configuration is extendable, and that's another thing that makes EA quite unique, EA Prolaborate. So that's the rationale behind we coming up with these accelerators. And the way we worked out the accelerators was by going back to the business queries we want to answer, not by looking at what framework are you trying to use. We went back to what kind of business queries are we answering for every single implementation. And then we shortlisted a set of questions that were repetitive in pretty much every domain, in every vertical, specifically in BFSI. This APM has been something that is most popular. It's been it's been one of the key focus areas in the recent years, especially post COVID, in terms of application rationalization and reducing the costs and cloud migration, and all those things has become a key driver for APM use case. And what we did was we identified the questions and we wanted to provide answers for them. And to provide an answer, we needed certain information to be modeled. And to model that information, we need a meta model. So we kind of worked out backwards to derive a meta model that will help our users get to a reasonably strong implementation in a short span of time. So that's the whole accelerator. So for example, this is one deliverable, and one of the common business interests is how do I manage the life cycle of my applications and or maybe capabilities. So we have a roadmap capability of Prolaborate, which gives you a very clear picture of your life cycles and transitions. And to do this, we needed certain information to be captured. And as I said, that kind of led to the meta model. Similarly, it's a very common request from our users to be able to do the time analysis, like the Gartner's time analysis. And to do this, what we needed was a business fit, a technical fit, and we kind of again worked it backwards to our meta model. So each of these visualizations or answers to the business queries is what led to us defining the actual meta model in the accelerator. And as Peter mentioned, this has become quite popular. There's been a lot of Sparx EA users, the current users and people who are embarking on Sparx architecture platform are starting off the accelerator, seeing values. So, and then trying to extend it. And our team, like, the team in Central Europe, and everywhere would be able to help in extending it and making it even more a stronger fit. But the whole idea is to give the users something to get started rather than trying to go through the same cycle of figuring out from scratch. So each of these visualizations were built for a specific query. So total cost of operations, for example, people wanted a way to analyze it in different dimensions. So we included it. So that's kind of how the whole dashboard was worked out. Let me just click on this and go to the real Prolaborate dashboard. So all this time was uh, a PowerPoint, and now I'm going to the actual Prolaborate instance. This is the latest version of Prolaborate, where there are some even more sought after enhancements that we have built. So this one dashboard, for example, is like a landing page for all architecture use cases. So this is a landing page which kind of leads the users to 5 different dashboards. To start with, I'm just going to click on this, and that will take me to the overarching EAM dashboard. And what you'll see here is all the way from capabilities. So I'm just starting from the business capabilities where I got a L1, L2, and L3 capability. And as I said, each of these colors, each of these hierarchies are coming from the Sparx EA model. Nothing is made up, nothing is from some arbitrary table or Excel. However, these are coming from the Sparx EA model. And if you look at this, this kind of gives users an ability to just hover over all these and analyze this in different dimensions. So if I want to change the capability lifecycle into something and say I want to analyze it based on capability type, I just switch it and now I can see there are core capabilities, strategic capabilities, and supporting capabilities. So that kind of gives all the non-technical business users ability to apply their own lens and get the required insights. And such visualizations have been built in this entire dashboard. So if I look at this, for example, this is a list of all my applications, and in the list of applications, if I want to do it, like, if I want to change the view based on data classification, I'm just applying a different lens, and that kind of gives me a view based on, like, confidential, internal, publicly, and, like, restricted and sensitive. And each of these are clickable. So I click on this, that will take me to the exact list of applications that matches my criteria. This is where Prolaborate becomes quite a powerful tool, because here I'm looking at all the confidential applications with all the details that I need just for that small list. And if I want to share this to someone, I could just download it as an Excel and share it to someone, or I could just share this whole thing as a URL. I could just say share this list as a URL, and users will get to this filtered list of applications with no ado. Just imagine presenting this in an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document could be an answer, but this is real time. People could click on it, look at its details, maybe add some comments or feedback as well. But it's all real model information that we are using to build these real time dashboards. And now in Prolaborate's latest version, what we have also added is an ability to have uh, a entire dashboard driven off a common lens. For example, here I've got total cost of ownership. I've got like the application landscape. I've got a domain-based application view. Everything is driven off hosting type. So the colors applied is based on hosting type. If I want to apply a completely different lens, I can do it at the dashboard level now. This is like something that is really new in 5.4. So I'm just going to go and say, instead of hosting type, I want to do it based on data classification. I just change this at the entire dashboard, and then you could see every single visualization beneath, including cost of ownership and domain based hierarchy or environment insights. Pretty much everything has now been driven by data classification. So this is even more powerful, because this was something that was requested by stakeholders for quite a while. They wanted to have a common lens applied across all the reports, so that they could see how this is spread out in different views. So this is another thing that is fairly new in 5.4. But all these are the visualizations that comes part of the accelerator. So our idea is to let someone, like, start from fairly an empty sheet. I mean, if you have existing model, that's well and good, but if you have something that's just in an Excel spreadsheet, we still want them to be able to go from that Excel spreadsheet into something meaningful like this with all the reports and dashboards configured. So part of the accelerator, we also have utilities to let you load data from your Excel or external systems. So that's also part of the accelerator. It's an Excel template, or your own Excel could be configured by with some minimal efforts to build all this model and get it in a shape and form that I'm demonstrating. So none of this is proprietary. I mean, it's all fairly stock standard as part of the accelerator. You just have to pick and choose the the use case that you want to start with. So if you want to focus on BIAN, there is a BIAN specific accelerator. Or if you want to do application portfolio management, there's an APM accelerator. So all these are to make sure all the any investments that you do in terms of architecture is delivering value in a remarkably short span of time, and that's enabled by Sparx EA plus Prolaborate as a tool, and this accelerator as a layer on top of it. So just going back to the Prolaborate's capabilities, I'm just going to dive into, let's say, the business capability management dashboard. So the landing page is like a dashboard of dashboards. So I could go from there to different dashboards, and each of these dashboards have been built to a specific use case or specific set of queries that we are trying to answer. I want to highlight one of the view that is very popular, which is this inventory view or a list view. And this list view is something that people who are quite comfortable only with an Excel have been finding remarkably useful. This is a live view into your architecture repository. So this is actually coming from the Sparx EA model. So nothing is you know done in a duplicated manner. There's no publish, there is no duplicate storage. It's your actual EA repository which is connected behind the scene, but you just don't have to go into that complex hierarchy or complexity of navigating through packages. It's all offered to our users in a platter so that they could just get get to it and do the right thing. I mean, do the essential updates or maintenance or feedback. So this Excel-like view is quite popular because of multiple reasons. One, it kind of gives them all the information that is expected, all these are key data points that this particular user may be interested in. So this is a curated form that is shown to the users. And secondly, if you want to apply a filter, so if I want to just look at applications that are in end of life with end of life risk, I just apply an end of life risk filter, and it shows me all the applications that are in the end of life risk. And even more, if you want to update it, you could actually do it through this Excel interface. The only thing is you need to have the right permissions to do it. So it's not that everyone will be able to update it. It's a controlled update, and you could even control which field is editable and which field is read only. So that's the kind of granularity that Prolaborate allows to let users work in a common repository, however, without really doing unprecedented or unexpected changes to the models that they should not be updating. So all these are some high level view of what Prolaborate could bring to table. And let me also go back to the basics. So one side of it is all these dashboards and reports and views, which are quite useful to deliver use cases. But on the other hand, it's could also be a simple peek into the diagrams and views that we create in Spark EA. So the diagrams page of Prolaborate is just showing the diagrams that you want that particular user to see. So it's not all the diagrams in the repository, but it's a specific set of diagram that that particular user or user group has to see. And they could apply filters in a really easy manner. So if they want to just apply a filter, it'll show a thumbnail of all the diagrams based on the filter applied. And if I go from here, I could just say I want to click on the thumbnail. It takes me to the actual meta model, or I mean the actual diagram behind the scene. So this actual diagram, which is clickable, which is real time, which can be discussed. So if I want to add a comment, I just say discuss, and then I add a comment. So need an update, and I could say I want to tag a user. If I mean, so I don't think I have added this user here, but if I have a user added, I could have an ut tag to, ut to tag a user or a user group. I could set a priority for this discussion, and once I post this, it kind of gets notified like it notifies all the users who are tied to this diagram, who and they get an email to their actual inbox so that they would not miss this update or the comment that they need to attend to. So this live view of EA diagrams on a web browser, and if I want to share this to someone else, I could either just copy a link and share it to them, or I could just type the email here and they'll be automatically invited to look at this particular diagram and collaborate on it. So this collaboration and sharing is one of the core features as well. So there's a sharing and collaborating on EA diagrams as is without having to navigate through the complex structures. And B, it's all these dashboards that we can build using the EA model information to make it even more relatable and deliver the right insights to the stakeholders. So that's pretty much what I want to share from a Prolaborate standpoint. So over to you, Peter.
Yes. So just to wrap it up, I think we tried to address some hot topics from our branches, fences, and I think that what I wanted to point out, I will not share, I just will talk. No problem, you can't see me. Okay, this I can change. Just to go back to that, what I have said before is that there are major challenges, and if you want to address them on the long run, it's the magic question if you need just one solution or you need a framework that supports it. And there are hot topics that are reaching are reached out to us, like the regulatory compliance, the risk management, and so on. And we have seen that in Enterprise Architect, as a modeling framework, we have a lot of capabilities, but the major change is that we want to address not only the expert modelers, the architects, we also want to address the people that want to get the data out of it. And we have seen in the presentation from Nizam that there is a huge demand on Excel-like access to such data. And with the overlay and the capabilities of Prolaborate to have even on a row level the possibility to say who is allowed to see what, and you have a lot of additional capabilities to restrict user access, as architects need a lot of information to make not redundant in work. With Prolaborate, we have the capabilities to have very focused and concentrated information for the target audience they need it. So I think to wrap it up, we have seen that with the combination of Prolaborate and Enterprise Architect, that will be, and in the future we will have also an offering that is not that complicated because it's a combination of our solution in a good way, meaning we will have a tree-radar offering that is containing the various aspects that you need for your domain. And it's not that you need that and that and that. It's a single and a very clear offering for your domain. And I think that you can address very well with our well-known aspects of the meter modeling capabilities, also new demands, but we also provide the essential architecture key that provides a very simplified, low-hanging fruit starting point to have fast and reachable results out of your modeling work that you also can attract all the colleagues in your organization and have it bound into your infrastructure as a valuable resource, and the modeling becomes more and more important in your organization. Integration was also addressed by Nizam. It is very important to integrate, of course, and in the way of having single point of truth, meaning if you have a resource like a list of application or a structure in your organization that is well maintained, we have a very powerful integration capability on various levels. So please reach out to us. If you have a very proprietary system, it's also possible because we have all the APIs. We have it's REST-based, so we can all integrate into our modeling environment so that you don't have to retype and double information. So it's, I think, very important to know that we are really open-minded in integrating into your entire toolchain as well. Okay, from our side, I think we are through the webinar for today. It's a little bit faster as we thought, but this is If you can't train it that often, then you have an imagination. It will take 1.5 hours, but I think it's okay to have it wrapped up right now. If there are any questions, you can type it into the chat or reach out to our regular contact lines. You all have been invited, so please, if you have any questions, reach out to us. We will answer them as soon as possible.